So, welcome back to Faithful Friday. For the first case for this week, we are going to Vermont. As far as I know, I have not been to the state of Vermont when it comes to one of these cases, so I guess we're just going to add another state to the map. This case is kind of tragic considering, our victim really didn't deserve, what happened to her, as in most of these cases, but, I really genuinely did not know about this case until I saw someone commented on another YouTuber, basically saying, hey, could you cover, someone else had commented on another true crime YouTuber, can you cover this case? And it turns out they actually did cover this case. And so most of the information that I have is from the YouTuber Bradestein, who was asked to cover the case. So shout out to her. And so yeah, I'm gonna give what I have cam down below. And so with that being said, I'm gonna quit my rambling. Let's go get started. So Michelle Jenkins was born on November 23rd, 1978. She would graduate from Plainsville High School in 1996. She would then go on to attend Plymouth State College and Montclair State University. She would then go on and get a bachelor's degree in natural science at Linden State College. And at the time of my story, she was working on a master's degree at St. Michael's College. There will be a point where she's working as a physics teacher in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, where our story takes place. And she was working as a waitress at nights and on the weekends. So basically having two jobs, trying to provide the best for her and her son. And also she has a son nicknamed Ty, and he was born in 2010. So here comes another woman into the story. We have Patricia Prue. That's not her maiden name, that's her married name. You'll soon figure out why. So she is originally from New York. She had married someone else. His name has not been released. However, apparently it said they separated in 2007 before legally going to divorce in 2009. In 2008, she would meet a man by the name Alan Prue on a dating website. And so Alan, don't have a date of birth on him. And so the two of them would eventually meet up in person, and they wound up getting married in 2011. So that's why Patricia has the last name Prue, because her and Alan are married. And of course, at some point in the marriage, Patricia would suggest for them to start doing threesomes, and Alan surprisingly actually agrees. Then, of course, since the two of them are agreeing to have threesomes and stuff, they are going on swinger websites, basically trying to find their third so they could sleep with this person, as threesomes happen. And unfortunately, they're living with Alan's mother, her mother's boyfriend, his sister, her husband, and their kids, and with thin walls. So basically saying we can't be getting away with this threesome. We have to be very quiet if we have this threesome, because all these people here and there's thin walls. There's no way it can happen. So apparently Alan goes and rents out a little place strictly for the threesomes and stuff. And the mom apparently knew about it, but she was okay with it because look, it ain't happening here for the kids, so it is what it is. So then apparently Patricia was also trying to have a kid, but unfortunately she was having fertility issues. So Alan is over here. He has a winter job where he apparently plows snow out of people's yards because in Vermont is going to be cold. There's going to be a lot of snow apparently up there during the winter. And so people need somebody to plow the snow in their yard because obviously they either don't have the time or they physically can't do it or they just don't want to do it. Maybe a combination of those options. So that's where Alan comes in. Apparently Patricia is working with him. And so this is how they meet Melissa. Because remember, I mentioned Melissa first. So this is how the three come together. And so of course, Melissa is said to be a very nice person. Unfortunately, Alan took this as Melissa being attracted to him, which as far as we know, she wasn't. And honestly, I don't blame her if she wasn't, because again, he was a married man. And so, but yeah, he's over here saying this oh, she wants me. That's how Alan see. Apparently that's how they both see it. And apparently he's asking her out on dates multiple times. She's saying no. And it got to the point to where she felt so uncomfortable, she just had him stop doing her lawn altogether. And then apparently sometime during the fall of 2011, so the next year, so winter ain't even came yet, he came to her yard drunk and was hey, can I do the lawn for when winter comes? So take that last part as you will. So on the fateful day of March 25th, 2012, Patricia and Alan proceed to go to a Walmart and they buy a burner phone and they pay for it with a check. This is back when checks were pretty much acceptable for pretty much everywhere. And as anybody who's paid with a check knows, you have to show ID and have date of birth. And you're paying with a check for obvious reasons. So there's not in case the check bounces or there's fraud or something, we know who you are. And so then they go to Burger King, apparently to the drive-thru, and Alan is wearing a red and black baseball cap. Now, normally I would mention what clothes they're wearing unless it's important, so just know it is important. That's why I'm mentioning the red and black baseball cap now, so just remember that. So then, of course, Patricia apparently calls Melissa and is hey, we're having car troubles. Can you come over and help. Well, they wasn't having no car troubles. They was actually trying to see if she was going to be willing to do a threesome. But obviously, you can't just ask for a threesome over the phone. And knowing that Melissa is unfortunately was a really nice person, even though she really felt uncomfortable around Alan, at least that we know of, she still had the heart to come and help them, unlike most people. So then Melissa actually contacts her ex, so not the father of her child, but apparently there's like a whole other ex that she has, and she contacts the ex and is like, hey, these people that I know asked me to like help come get them out of the situation, and I'm just telling you just so like somebody knows where the hell I'm at in case something happens to me. Which is smart on her part because something did unfortunately happen, but then you never know, so you gotta tell people where the hell you at sometimes. So they said that Melissa did eventually show up and like saw them, and apparently they just happened to be like right by her house, so it wasn't a far drive for her. And then she has her son in the back seat of the car, which of course he's like 2, so obviously you can't just leave the boy like by himself. And she thought this would be just like a really simple, quick fix. And so apparently they never actually asked her about the threesome. They just like grabbed her, strangled her, and then they just put her in the backseat of their car. And while they're leaving literally Ty by himself, unharmed, thank God. But this 2-year-old was literally by himself, just witnessing his mom literally being strangled in the backseat of Melissa's car. So then while they have Melissa in their car, Alan is driving and Patricia is basically strangling her more to make sure she actually dies and is not just unconscious. So then they go back to his mom's house, and apparently they have like cinder blocks, tape, and rope. So you already know where this is about to go. About to need cinder blocks and shit. So then they take her body to a river. They put her on a tarp, strip her naked, pour bleach on her to dispose of evidence, tie the cinder blocks to her ankles and wrists to basically, basically make her waist down so she doesn't come up. And then they throw the body in the river. And so apparently, despite these cinder blocks, Melissa's body was still like floating up. Like she was like, we ain't gonna go down without a fight, even though Melissa was obviously already dead by this point. And so they put branches on her body, and apparently somehow these branches were enough to like at least put her down for at least a little bit. But as we know, apparently these were like some small little branches you get off the trees. So obviously this ain't gonna be enough for long, but at least it's gonna have to do for now, essentially. So then Patricia and Alan, they proceed to go to New Hampshire. So we cross the state borders for this one. And they decide we're gonna go burn everything over in New Hampshire. Because why would you go overlook it in the state for some evidence, right? And then of course by this point it's like 11 p.m. Obviously the ex is not her back from Melissa. And I like to assume it's like, if everything turned out fine, she would contact him and be like, hey, I made it back safe. And of course, he had called her back like multiple times, and she didn't answer. So obviously, he's concerned, rightfully so. So apparently, he has a roommate. He gets his roommate to drive over to Melissa's house, and they see her car on the side of the road. Ty is obviously still in the car, still unharmed. He's a 2-year-old alone in the car. His mom's nowhere around, so that's obviously concerning. And they call the police, and they see Alan's hat is on the ground because apparently that black and red hat I mentioned he had earlier. He dropped that, and that's still on the scene, and one of Melissa's shoes, and Melissa's cracked phone. So then Melissa apparently had a brother, and this brother pretty much mentions the ex by name. So now police are also looking at the ex, because, I mean, it's the ex, and sometimes in these murder cases, it do be the ex. So, we looking at you not looking pretty good right now. So then he's like, we did break up, but it was because apparently he wanted more than what she wanted. Okay, apparently he wanted like an actual relationship, and she wanted just a friendship, and so, but they were willing to stay friends, despite him having feelings for her, and he would eventually be cleared, because it pretty much seemed he was innocent. So then, you gotta check out Ty's father, who was like hours away, and at the time that Melissa went missing, he has an alibi, he's at work 80 miles away. So he couldn't have possibly done it and made it back to work when he has the alibi. So Ty's father is also cleared, so who could have done it now? So obviously, even though Ty's like 2, he technically is a witness, so we're going to try whatever we can with him. And luckily, the police, they have like this thing where they have a special officer to speak to children. You get stuff out of children, because you can't just speak to kids like you do with adults, especially in traumatic situations, because this is his mom. So they ask him what happened, and apparently he mentions that he saw 2 people, Alan and Patricia, so we got that. And then he put his hand like on his throat to indicate strangling, because again, they did strangle his own mom in front of him. So this is definitely a kidnapping, and they're thinking the worst case scenario. So then they go to her house, Melissa's house, okay, and they don't see anything like out of order, like nothing's really like missing, but they do take some papers and a business card, and apparently they do actually go over to Alan and Patricia's house, and they say, oh, we haven't seen her in a while, which we obviously know is not true, but I guess the police don't know that yet. And they even gave the police permission to check out their house and their car. And so later this is the same day, Patricia and Alan apparently actually came to the police station, not to confess, of course, but they were like, oh, well, Patricia was like, oh, well, my checkbook is stolen, and I think my identity is being stolen, and I think my ex-husband, Jeffrey, did it. So apparently the original husband, his name is Jeffrey. And so they gave Alan and Patricia water cups, but we kept the water cups as like evidence. Because like by this point, it's obviously suspected that they think they were involved with Melissa, which good. So yeah, we're going to keep the cups even for DNA evidence. Because at this point, we got to look at everybody as a suspect now. And so, and apparently the police even asked, like, are you aware that Melissa is missing right now? And apparently both of them said no. And then, of course, they're asked about their whereabouts on the night of March 25th. See where the hell they were at. They said, and Patricia's like, look, we did errands, we went to a drive-thru, and we was home by 7:30. Which obviously we know that's not true. But you gotta get a fake story if you don't get arrested. So then she decides we're gonna turn the story off Melissa and go back to this stolen checkbook, right? And, you know, basically trying to blame it on Jeffrey, trying to get like y'all need to worry about the stolen checkbook that I got going on. And apparently the officer said that, look, your ex-husband ain't missing, Melissa is, and she's a very concerned because she has a whole as child, and we believe Melissa is no longer alive at this point. So then, of course, they let the couple go because there's nothing really that proves that, at least at this point, that they are involved, even though they highly suspect these two, as they should, because, you know, they're the ones who did it. So then, of course, police, they, obviously, like I said, they believe that Melissa is no longer alive, that she has been dead, and that there is foul play. So they go start checking places where a person might dump a body, and they don't want the body being found. And apparently one of these places was the Connecticut River. And this is a river that separates New Hampshire and Vermont. So the story takes place in Vermont. And apparently that's the river that they dumped Melissa's body in, because they do eventually find her. Because like I said, they didn't do a good job tying her down, which is good because her body was found. And apparently cold water slows down decomposition. So they were able to identify her pretty easily. So now Melissa is confirmed to be deceased. And so apparently there were, unfortunately there were condoms and wrappers found near her body. Like where her body was found. But it was never confirmed if those are related to her murder. So like whether or not she had been raped, that's never came out publicly. And that's never actually been confirmed, so we don't even know. And then apparently a visual was held the day after she was found with more than 100 people in attendance. And apparently St. Johnsbury is like a small town, and a lot of people knew Melissa, and Melissa was very well liked. So this shook the town, because not only was there like a low crime rate, but for there to be somebody that was so well liked that practically the whole town knew, and this person was brutally murdered, obviously the town's gonna be shook. The school that she was teaching at, because she was teaching at a private school, and I'm assuming these kids had like uniforms, because it said break the dress code. They were like, hey, in honor of Melissa, it's okay if you wear pink. Normally we'd be on your ass because you're breaking the dress code, but in memory of Melissa, because she was such a good person, you can wear pink. Because they didn't know what her favorite color was, but apparently she wore pink a lot. So it's just assumed that her favorite color is pink. So in memory of her, wear pink. But we're encouraging it. So then we gotta go check Melissa's cell phone records, because I like to assume the ex told them like, hey, she said she was finna go meet up with somebody before she called me. So maybe go check who she's supposed to meet up with, because maybe they did it. Which they did. But, you know, obviously the ex wouldn't know the full story, but it's just a helpful suggestion. So they get her phone records back. They see that the number is a burner number, like from a burner phone, so automatic suspicious. It was bought in New Hampshire, and it was bought the day that she was murdered, and it was only ever used for one phone call. So they go to New Hampshire, rewind the tapes, and sure enough, they find out it was paid for with a check in Patricia's name. So then on March 27th, because, you know, these officers, they moving fast, because they not playing about this woman, and rightfully so. They bring Alan and Patricia into the police station. Also, at this point, it's pretty much obvious that Alan and Patricia are at least involved, if they're not the ones that directly killed her. And they separate the two, they question them, and Patricia denies everything, even though they're literally showing her evidence that we know your ass went to this Walmart in New Hampshire. You went to a whole other state to get a burner phone, and it was because again, you paid with a check. And she denied this shit. And so then Alan, he basically pretends that he has amnesia, right? And so he's basically pretending like, look, even though it's literally 2 days ago, I don't know what I was doing or even where I was at. And so then at some point, I guess he decides I might as well tell the truth. And so he actually gets the officer to do a spit shake, where Alan spits in his hand, the officer spits in his own hand, and they shake hands with each other's spit, if you want to get the truth out of me. Well, officers, they're desperate, so they do it. They do the spit shake. And Alan proceeds to tell them everything, including the locations, like where the evidence was, where we went to the body at, everything. So then both at this point, they're obviously charged with second-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder. Now, Alan's charges would eventually get upgraded to first-degree murder, and Patricia got upgraded to aggravated murder. And apparently this is because they believe that Patricia either did or tried to rape Melissa. Again, we don't know. They never released exactly if that did happen to her, but that's what the police are saying what happened. So, and then apparently, so of course the police, they gotta go to the camper where Patricia and Alan are living at. Remember, his mom and pretty much whole family's there. They're defending them, saying, it couldn't have been them, even though they didn't know about the confession and the evidence that we already have. And we just here to simply gather more evidence to make sure they get put away. So apparently Alan and Patricia, they have like separate trials, even though they're married, and it's just one victim. But I guess they just felt like we're going to have separate trials to make this, I don't want to say better, because that kind of draws out the legal process, but make it more simple. I don't know. Anyway, so in Alan's trial, he's trying to say that, can we withdraw the confession, forget the confession ever happened? And the judge obviously declines it, because it's like, you weren't under duress, you voluntarily gave that shit. So, no. So then he tries to say, well, Patricia did everything, and she suffers from multiple personality disorders. So then Patricia was called to testify at Alan's trial, and she testifies Fifth Amendment. So basically she's going to stay silent, I guess, to protect her husband, even though this man literally tried to throw her under the bus. So then Alan is sentenced to 50 years to life for murder, life for kidnapping, and 5 years for conspiracy. So now that Alan's trial is over, we also now got to have Patricia's trial, and Alan can't speak to Patricia until after the trial is over, until after her trial is over. So, and I'm pretty sure like the same, like she can't try to speak to him. So that's, yeah. And then, so we're at Patricia's trial. One of her cellmates, because it's always a cellmate that comes into these stories. I don't know why. One of these cellmates would testify in court that apparently Patricia had bragged about the murder to a group of them. And that apparently she was strangling Melissa while Alan was violating her. Again, there was no report saying that she had been violated, so I don't know exactly how true that part is. They did pour bleach on her, and she had been in the water for a good minute. So I don't... But again, I'm not an expert, but I still feel like if they had found evidence of violation, I feel like they would have said that. So, take that as you will. And apparently, one of her Google searches, she had actually searched up how to kidnap a girl. And so then, of course, Patricia, she's over trying to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, as a lot of them do. But very rarely do you ever see that actually be successful. So, as you imagine, that wasn't successful. However, apparently she did testify a lot. So, in exchange for her testimony, apparently she got a plea deal, as they often do. And she got charged on aggravated attempted murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. And for these charges, for the aggravated attempted murder, she got life. For kidnapping, she got life. And of course, conspiracy, she got 4 to 5 years. So in 2013, doesn't say when, but sometime in 2013, St. Michael College, which is the college that she was trying to pursue her master's degree in, because like I said, she's a single mom. We're talking about Melissa here. Melissa was a single mom because her and the father weren't together, and she was trying to make a better life for her son, as mothers do. So because of this, St. Michael's decided we're going to reward her, even though she's no longer here, we're still going to give her reward, like, oh my gosh, we're going to give her her degree posthumously, so like after the person has passed. Which apparently colleges are allowed to do that, so that's nice of them. So in 2014, this story wasn't already sad enough. Apparently, they were doing, I would like to assume they were doing a anniversary piece on the murder of Melissa, and apparently they had put, this was on the news station, that there was pictures of Melissa's body on the news station, and some of her family members saw it. They would go on to sue. The news station made a statement saying basically they apologized, and I didn't see the family got any money out of that. So who knows what came out of that, because again, this was like 10 years ago, so whatever happened out of that, I don't even know. And then in 2017, Alan and Patricia would eventually divorce. So then the latest update for this case, because Patricia and Alan are still in jail, by the way, but the last information known about this case is that in 2021, Patricia apparently tried to get an appeal for the case, saying that the judge, prosecutor, and the defense attorney all did misconduct, and all of them, she had ineffective counsel. And also with her still being in jail, I would like to believe that was denied, but I never saw like somewhere like, or said, oh, denied. So, but she's still in jail, and that's like 3 years later. So, yeah. With that being said, that's all I have for the murder of Melissa Jenkins. The story's probably like maybe 15 minutes long. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, so with that being said, rest in peace to Melissa. I hope Ty's doing well, because he'll be about he'd be 16 right now. Sad if you think, yeah, Ty would be 16 right now. And so, yeah, if anybody knows like who Ty went to, who went to family or who went to foster care, because normally they do mention like, oh, he went to foster care, he went to go live with his grandparents. If anybody actually knows what happened to Ty or like where he is now, definitely let me know. And so, with that being said, sources now as always. That's all I have for this episode of Favorite Friday. I'm here for you guys 3 times every Friday, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.